Welcome back to another episode of Cable Chatter. Today we have with us Bob McCoy, the mayor of Winchester, Indiana. I had the opportunity to speak with him about what's been going on in Winchester, some of the things they've been working on, struggles, and all kinds of interesting things. I know I learned a lot and really enjoyed my time with Bob, and I'm sure you will as well. But first, we have community announcements. On Friday, July 1st, the First Friday concert will be at 7 p.m. with Dan Wright at the Farmland Community Center. There will be a meal option beforehand for an added cost. Call for details. That's 765-468-7631 or visit the Historic Farmland USA Facebook page. The Two Representatives Won, the official flag of the City of Union City, will have its inaugural hoisting ceremony on Broadway. And that's the former parking lot by the old Union Trust Bank. And that's at 5:30 p.m. on July 1st. On Saturday, July 2nd, the Union City annual fireworks will be at 10 p.m. in Harder Park. On Monday, July 4th, it's Independence Day. The Preservation Society will be having their annual July 4th Veterans Picnic that's free for veterans, open to the public from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. at the community room. At Goodrich Park that evening, there'll be a free concert at 7 p.m. with Grove Hill with Kenny Live. Fireworks will follow the concert. On Wednesday, July 6th, there'll be free movies for veterans and 55 and over at the Town Square Cinema, and that's at 1 p.m. On Saturday, July 9th, the grand reopening of the Parker City Memorial Library. Door prizes, food, activities, and more. Visit the Facebook page for more details. That evening at Artisan Park, there'll be a free concert at 7 p.m. with Tantrum, performing classic rock covers of 70s, 80s, and 90s hits. On Friday, July 15th, the Randolph County 4-H Fair begins. On Saturday, July 16th, at the Town Square Community Center, they will be hosting their Great Gatsby Roaring 20s Adult Prom. This will be from 8 to 11:30 p.m. Visit their Facebook page for additional details. Tuesday through Thursday, July 19th through 21st, there'll be a kids art camp and safety program. They'll be serving lunch at noon. The program runs from 1 to 3 p.m. and this is at the Arts Depot, so visit there for more details. On Thursday, July 21st, the Rich Vogler Classic Race will be at the Winchester Speedway. Visit the Speedway Facebook page for more details. There's a lot going on in Randolph County in July, and more than we could fit in the community announcements section of this episode. So be sure to get on Facebook, catch the newspaper, look out for lots of interesting and unique things going on in Randolph County, and make sure to go out and have a good time and enjoy what Randolph County has to offer. Up next is the interview with Bob McCoy. Thanks for tuning in. Welcome to Cable Chatter. I'm here with Bob McCoy. Bob is the mayor of Winchester, Indiana. I personally don't know that much about Bob, and he's going to give us an introduction, tell us a little bit about himself, about what's going on in Winchester, and we'll just see where we end up. So, Bob, tell us a little about yourself.
Well, I grew up in Winchester, went away for about a year, worked for Val Discount Stores. You may be too young to remember them, I don't know. But anyway, I spent about a year away in Newcastle, came back, been involved in retail, management positions, purchasing, foundry, pretty much background, I would say more in manufacturing than anything, glass industry for the most part. So I spent the last 13 years prior to being mayor at a company called Mall Technology, which supplies glass equipment for basically the world and different places, mainly overseas now. Deal with a lot of older equipment, so that's what they do. So I left there actually because I was burnt out.
Sure.
I got burnt out, and I felt that I was going, I'd come to my end of learning, I guess you would say. So I got burnt out. I was on city council, started out as a whole barking dog thing, and Vicki Haney, which was clerk at the time, she said, you just need to get involved. And it took about 2.5 years to deal with the whole barking dog thing. I mean, so I understand how things move slow. So, from there, I kind of bounced over to county council after 3 years. I'm not really sure what possessed me to do that. Somebody encouraged me to. I actually prefer city council over county council.
Okay.
But I spent the next 9 years there.
9 years on county council?
Yes.
Okay.
And then bounced into being the mayor.
All right.
So, once I got there, my whole goal has been, for one thing, making the city walkable, cleaning up the blight, cleaning up abandoned vehicles, getting people to mow their yards, things like that. And I've heard many other people talk, when you drive into a city and you're not from here, the first thing you see is usually it's your first impression. So that
Sure.
first impression is very important to a lot of people that live here, and important to us because we want to grow as a city, and we want people to feel welcome. So that's the whole thing. I've spent this is my 3rd year. Basically a new council, a few older members that have been there for a while: Jim Nunez, Lisa Friend, Tom Sells. But I got a couple new people, and we all get along for the most part, and
That's
they've been
great.
pretty agreeable with what our vision is. And I say our vision because it's not necessarily mine. We're all in agreement. We want to attack blight. They've been really good about appropriating money. We want to attack the sidewalks, and we want to enforce ordinance violations. Some people do not like that.
Well, sure.
But for the most part, I feel they do. And again, that's council. If they don't want to appropriate money to move forward with that, then they can say, hey, we don't agree with this. But you go back through the ordinance book, and for many years, them ordinances have been on the books, but they have not been enforced.
Sure.
So it does come back to making people mad sometimes, and they're not happy about it. But on the other hand, I kind of look at it like, if you're out in the middle of nowhere, you're not hurting nobody.
Mm-hmm.
But if you've got neighbors and your
Sure.
grass is this tall, and you got 6 vehicles in your backyard with flat tires and hadn't been drove in 25 years, that's a problem to your neighbors. That hurts property values, and it's just disrespectful of your neighbors. So our goal is to contact the people. We got a new software called Comcate that we use. I think I've talked to the people at Union City a little bit about it, and my ordinance officer, a lot of documentation, but he can take his tablet out, take a picture of a property, pulls it up on the K.I.S. mapping, pretty much the ordinances, type in dog, the whole ordinance pops up, print right on the spot, put it on the door, mail it, whatever, and then there's a follow-up, put in there, so many week follow-up. If they call in and say, hey, I've got a problem, I can't get this done, then we work with them. We say, well, what's it going to take? Tell me. 30 days? Will you agree to that? Yeah, 30 days sounds good. For the most part, a lot of people clean up. So, I think that's been going well. It is a challenge sometimes, and there's people that have choice words for me. So, but I think that's what I was hired to do.
Well, no process like enforcing ordinances, especially if stuff hasn't been enforced in a long time. None of those processes, I'm sure, are going to make the people happy when somebody shows up on their doorstep or they get a letter
Exactly.
or whatever. That's never, that I know in the rare occasion I've gotten anything like that, it makes you feel like you're not doing something you should be doing or whatever. And yeah, that's not going to make anybody happy. But I think, big picture, that's what, because when you drive into any town, even whether it's Winchester or when I'm traveling, you drive into town, you're making a judgment of that place by just looking around.
Exactly.
And so you want to make sure, and I know Randolph County's been focused on the blight issue for a while.
We have, and Randolph County United, and through the studies at Ball State, that's what's came up. Blight, quality of living, drugs has been, a big part of that. That one there, I don't know where to go with tackling the drug problem.
Sure.
I'm at a loss to try to help people. We do have therapy for people. We do have rehab. We got places we can send them. If somebody's to call me tomorrow and say, hey, I'm ready, I can make a phone call and get them in somewhere. But they've got to make that initial step, and they got to make this phone call themselves. But it's difficult, and meth is a horrible, horrible way to die because it's a slow death. Teeth falling out, and eventually heart attacks or whatever.
Yeah, it's real. It's there and it's out there,
It
and
is,
it
It's sad.
It's Randolph County. It's here. It's not going away, and we can't ignore it. It's here.
And if it's your child, at some point in time, there's people that have just finally let go and said, I can't do it anymore, and they're just done. And there's others that hang on and hang on and hang on and somewhat enable sometimes. But I mean, to be in their shoes, I haven't been in their shoes, so I don't know their personal situation. I don't know the relationship with their family. But I do know that, they've been stolen from. They've spent all kinds of money getting their kids into rehab. And I say kids, but I mean, we're talking young adults. We're talking sometimes people my age still.
Right.
So it's not a good situation.
But there are resources out there. So
Yes.
if anybody is at that point or interested in getting some help, should they reach out to the city building or what's?
They can reach out to the city building. They can reach out to Brianna's Hope. They have a chapter in Winchester. Meet at the Beeson Clubhouse Mondays at, I think they actually start the meeting at 6:30, but they do serve food starting at 6. And they ask nothing of anybody that comes to the meeting. If you just want to go there and eat and kind of hear what they have to say. They're not going to force religion on you in any way. They do pray. They have a prayer about Brianna, and for the most part, I mean, just a bunch of caring, loving people that have kept this going. Terry Bogue's been involved from day one. Tammy Pruitt was involved. She was kind of the starting factor there, and I helped her get going, and the city's always allowed them to use the Beeson facility for just them meetings. And so, our hope is to get people and maybe something will click with them. But I mean, before I was mayor, I attended meetings quite a bit to get a better understanding of what's going on. And, there was people there that would be there one week and the next week they wouldn't, and they were gone. They had passed. And I know of at least 3 or 4 that through the whole course of the meetings that I attended are not here today.
That's tough.
And moms and dads crying and not understanding why. And sometimes there's more than one in a family. So, and then you have children that have children, and then you have grandparents raising their children because they're non-existent. So that's a huge thing for me. I mean, I understand it, but I don't understand it being a parent of an addict, but I do understand it. And again, I mean, we're more than willing to find them help if they want it. I've had a few people accuse me of tearing their houses down where they were living, like addicts. Well, they're blighted homes, and landlords, and the term's been used, slumlord. I haven't personally called anybody a slumlord, but that's the term. And we've had them approach the city and say, hey, will you buy this? I can't rent out of anybody. They're living in it, and squatting. And I mean, they get tired of dealing with it, and a lot of times they're not providing the basics. They're not providing water, they're not providing sewer, they're not providing a decent kitchen, a decent bathroom. So we got to work on making landlords, and I know Union City's went a little bit towards that direction with inspections. I'm kind of getting mixed feelings. I've talked to Chad a few times on how that actually works. But the biggest concern is these people that have nothing, that are living in this filth, they're stuck.
Right.
But for somebody to rent them a place that isn't even livable,
That's
if you wouldn't live in it yourself, then you don't expect anybody else. So I mean, we cleaned one up that they were going to the bathroom in a tote.
And I think people don't either believe or want to believe that is the case. That can be down the street or whatever, and that there are real issues right here. I mean, I know it's small town, rural America, rural Randolph County, but there are real issues here that people are suffering, and that it doesn't matter how necessarily they got there, but there's trying to figure out how to get them to a better place.
Exactly, and I mean we've got some places where they're living in tents. Yeah, so it's sad. It really is, and there really isn't anything we can do about them living in tents. The biggest thing is the theft that goes along with the addiction, and that's our issue with that. We want to help you, but you need to help yourself. I've talked to a few people and said, hey, what's going on? Have you applied for a job somewhere? And even tell them, the aluminum foundry for the most part in Winchester has hired people with addiction problems. I think TOA may have at one time. I don't know whether they still do or not, but I mean, I've told people, have them call me. And if you apply for a job, have them call me and I will talk to them. But what is expected of you is to show up every day and be productive and do that much of it, and then you've got your chance. I said, I'd be so happy to see somebody get out of that revolving. It's just it's sickening, and I get on a soapbox about this. It's just.
Well, it's something you're passionate about, and that's understandable.
It is sickening. It really is. But no, we're not running anybody out of their homes. We bought the homes because the landlords were tired of dealing with them. And, I spoke at Union Street Church. I think it's a Wesleyan church on last Sunday. Preacher was celebrating 25th anniversary for him being there, Randy Yarrian. And first thing he said, introduced me and said, here's the mayor that took down the crack house right beside the church, and talked about how many ODs were in that house. And it was the same situation. There was not running water. There was not a working bathroom, working kitchen. And sometimes kids are involved. And I know CPS and all them get a bad rap sometime, but a lot of times their hands are tied as well. But when children are involved, sorry about that.
That's okay.
When children are involved, that's where it really gets, it's not fair to the children.
No,
as adults, if we're going to die from addiction and whatever, that's on us. But to drag a child in it, it's scary. It's just
we as someone who works at a school and I'm end to end. Yeah, it happens.
You see it.
But to move forward from that, slightly depressing topic, but no, and it's great that you have a passion for it and you're doing your best to help, and then also work with people, but fulfill your end of the kind of your bargain or your job as far as you see it from the council.
Right.
What other things are going on or has been happening recently in Winchester?
Well, a big thing in my opinion was bringing Little League back to Winchester years and years ago, and I don't know the whole history behind it, but I think there was a dispute with the Lions Club. I'm not sure what happened, and maybe that isn't the fact, but Little League pretty much left and went to Saratoga.
Okay.
So and then I think it's kind of started falling apart in Saratoga. I heard it kind of fall apart in some of the other little cities and towns, but our goal was to get Little League back. So we're getting Little League back. We're playing more softball, girls softball, different varieties of softball. I don't know a whole lot about a bigger ball they used to hit.
Okay.
Another thing is disc golf is really big.
Sure.
A local preacher belongs to a lot of different disc golf people being involved. So he's brought a lot to the table there. We're raising money for our K.I.S.S, a disc golf tournament coming up. I don't have the dates on me. For some reason, the 30th of July sticks in my mind, but if that's a Saturday, that's probably it. But disc golf, tennis courts were resurfaced a few years ago through the Goodrich Trust money, which we get about $120,000 a year on the average. 4 upgrades. So we have pickleball there.
Okay.
I've never played. I hear it's for older people, I guess you don't have to move as much.
I've heard it's a good time though.
So, pickleball, softball, disc golf, just spent $40,000 on a new pump for the pool. We really were concerned. You never know when you flip the switch in the spring. We always say we're going to get started earlier. I got a very good street parks department. They're small, but I'll tell you what, they're mighty. They get a lot done. But that is always a big thing. Summer hours, the summer eats a lot of our labor up. We try to keep the park looking beautiful. Nothing but compliments on the park for the most part.
It's
I've never. We've had issues with people destroying the restrooms. I don't get that. People say put a camera up. You got to catch them in the act. You can't go in the bathroom with a camera.
Nope.
So that's a difficult. A biggest thing is educating the parents. Say, hey, this is just why do you want to tear? Hundreds of dollars every year spent fixing toilets where they just go in and bust them. And it makes no sense. But but back to the pool. We spent 40 grand getting a new pump. We had the first chlorine and all the other stuff test that went in. Like on a Tuesday, Sheen Bosworth actually ran it to Muncie because we didn't have time because it wasn't going to be back till Thursday or Friday. The guy that got our chemistry straightened out, he looked at it and he says, and you know how them guys are, just, it's good. And well, sorry, but the health department and whatever don't see it that way. But I mean, tests come back great.
Good.
So, with the pool open on Labor Day, Memorial Day, sorry, Memorial Day like it should, and we always plan on that, but we've had years in the past that it didn't, and people get rather mean about the pool not opening, and they get rather agitated that we can't staff it after the college kids go back to school because we don't have the lifeguards.
Sure.
So right now with the pool, the thing is we applied for a splash pad grant. I'd say, man, it's probably a year and a half in the works. We are getting there. We haven't officially announced anything because the federal government's involved in the DNR and different things, but we're about 90% sure we have that grant. We're already doing engineering, so we will have a splash pad hopefully next year.
That's awesome.
When the pool's open, that's the goal. Who knows with materials?
Sure.
That's a crazy thing right now. But the goal is to have a splash pad that's kind of attached to the pool, but yet will be open when them summer hours end at the pool and allow the grandparents and the babysitters and a lot of people that are still out of school or the younger kids to go cool off at the splash pad. So that was, I think that was $600,000 or $700,000 with some matching money from the city Zedit plan as well as the Goodrich Trust. So that's another thing that's very positive. Former Mayor Sean Byram tried to get one, and the grant did not get accepted the first time around. So we were happy that we're this far along, and I think it will go through. So I'm real happy about that. And then of course in the park, concerts.
Oh yeah, no, I know we announce we do a lot of community announcements for the concerts in the Goodrich Park, and you had the Flying Toasters were here just the other day, and I know
Yes.
I hear about them from different people that really enjoy that show, and so I think you got a lot of neat things going on over there.
Yeah, so Flying Toasters, I won't call them our opening concert because we did have the jazz band from the school actually open the year, but yeah, I think there were 600 plus people there at the Flying Toasters, so the park was packed.
That's fantastic.
The high school was packed with, I think it might have been the Gary Horner Classic or something. I'm not sure, something to do with Gary Horner, I think.
Okay.
So the high school was packed. Vendors, Abby's Crazy Snacks, Hoosier Q, I think it's called Home Baked Pizza.
Okay.
And then there was Mike's Concessions. So it
was a busy place then.
Busy place, kind of rained at the end, but they got their concert in. So besides that, I did recently get a grant from the Community Foundation for some religious concerts.
Okay.
So I think it was a $6,000 grant, and our goal is to get churches involved and basically let them line the music up, and then we assist in paying for the music and possibly food and whatever. And basically, like say if they want to have their church service on Sunday morning out there at the amphitheater, then they have it out there if they want to have an evening church service. So that's the goal throughout the summer to have religious music out there for people that would enjoy that and come out and maybe a little prayer or whatever. Communion, I don't know. Maybe they may do that. I don't know. Mm-hmm. But that's the goal there. But our park is very busy. We're proud of our park.
You should be. It's very nice, and I've heard good things about the disc golf, and I know we've got some players around here that enjoy going over and playing on through that course. You have a nice park.
But if it wasn't for the Goodrich Trust, a lot of things would not happen in that park. And and that's Chad had actually called me one time and said, "How do I get some of that money?" I said, "You don't." I'm sorry, Chad, but that's just Winchester.
Yeah, that happens.
So I'm not that I wouldn't share, but
you can't. You just can't.
So, but I mean, it is. It's tough. It's tough to keep the operations going with funding right now. Mm-hmm. We are working on trying to do better at our animal shelter right now. I mean, we did hire a new staff member out there, Aaron Orr, former dispatcher. He's doing a great job, but really, in the future, it'd be nice to have a newer facility. So that might be something in the future we talk about. Go after a grant, Okra grant or whatever. I don't know where they would qualify for that, but that's something that we may look at in the future.
Well, that's all. I mean, it's city government, and you've got all the other things going on as well. You're trying to make improvements, and there's a lot of things that are involved, and things don't move nearly as fast as anybody wants them to.
No,
but
not
I think
at
that's just the nature of how that all works.
Exactly, and it is frustrating that things don't move any faster. But I've learned to be a little more patient. Sometimes I'm impatient with my police officers and ordinance stuff and things like that to say, well, where are we at on this? I just, give it time. But I try to keep a calendar, and I have access to their software, so I can look at it and say, so-and-so called up here today, and they said that, I need a little more time on my grass. I need a little more time cleaning up. Can you do that for me? And we're always like, yeah. It's not about busting your chops and assessing a fine. It's about you cleaning up and being respectful of your neighbors, and just and it's never been about go out and find somebody and harass them about cleaning their property, because that's not been the goal.
Sure.
And we understand people have issues, people have
Things
financial
happen.
issues, but for the most part, if somebody would say, I've got a financial issue where I can't do it, or I'm not physically able, then we'll go out and find somebody, or we'll do what we can to help them. But just to say, no, I'm not cleaning it up, that's not going to float. I mean, we've got to pursue it, but we're going to be patient about it.
Yeah,
So,
I mean, you've got your job to do, and
exactly,
yeah.
and that's what I was hired to do. And like I said, and I'm going to talk to council on the 20th when we have a meeting, and I'm just going to ask them. I said, I've got a lot of grief lately from some people. Is this our focus? Because it's written on paper, and somebody put it on paper many years ago, and it's still on paper. If it's not our focus, then we either take it off the paper or just tell me to back off and not do it. Don't provide me any funding. And then I guess I'll find something else to do, But again, back to first impressions, back to respecting your neighbor.
Yeah.
So that, and back to what's going on in Winchester. We are in the process of building up to 18 new homes out along Huntsville Road.
That's fantastic.
Run by the golf course, basically bordering the golf course. It was a slow start. A lot of things, kind of a learning thing for me. First housing development I've been involved in personally. We have investors that have basically said, we want to do this, and people's just not going to come in and spend a lot of money without some help. So we're putting in the infrastructure, the
Sure.
sewer, and the county actually helped us getting the water in. So that's in process. 2 homes are basically built right now. They're not complete. We still haven't got the sewer and water out there to them because of delays with just different things, materials, item, permitting, and just things like that. And then also we are going to start building north of town on Old 27.
Okay.
A planned probably 12 houses.
That's excellent.
So that's another area. The golf course area, actually, they did what they call a voluntary annexation, which makes things so much easier that we're not saying, hey, you're going to belong to the city. We don't, this is the way it is. They say, no, we want to belong to the city. We want to get this done. And being part of the city is that, that we provide the services. We make them available. So on the other side of town, the north side, it's already in the city limits, but it had never been serviced by sewer and water in certain areas. So we're going to go out there, and that's the same thing. So we're taking some of our ARP funds to help with that. And we got about $1 million, but we only got half of it, so we got 500 and some thousand. So some of that has been used for upgrading our fleet, our police cars. Got a new ambulance not long ago. We actually got a demo before everything dried up. I think the county's going to be waiting another year on a new ambulance.
They're hard, they're hard to come by, and they're not cheap in the
We
first place.
basically have all new police cars except for, I think we need to replace 2 older vehicles. But for the most part, our fleet has been updated. The city, back when COVID hit, when the first K.I.S.S. Act money started coming out, we did away with our drive-up window and went to a drop box system.
Okay.
Main reasoning behind that is because it was a constant flow of money coming into the clerk. So COVID, whatever,
Right.
touching the money, dealing with that, and actually it actually streamlines things to allow us to do other things, because if he's at the window constantly, he's not getting everything's done. The way it works now, in the morning he just empties the drop box, processes everything, next morning same thing, so on and so on. People can still pay online, things like that. So with that, we also went ahead and put a buzz-in system. So two reasons: security for our employees,
Sure.
and COVID. So, with that being said, I'll kind of go into a little bit of another subject. We've been doing that for, I want to say, a year and a half, maybe longer, maybe 2 years. And just recently, that whole deal about the building being, basically the whole building being open to the general public, has been challenged by what they're calling a constitutional 1A constitutional auditor, which wants to push the issue about just coming in and filming everything. I look at that as somewhat as a security risk.
Sure.
I mean, we know what happens when what happened in a grocery store not long ago. I also look at it as, we've always said, got a buzzer, ask them what they need. I need to see the clerk about paying my sewage bill. Okay, we'll buzz you in, have a seat on the bench. When we're ready for you, we'll come and get you. Because a lot of times you don't want more than one person in there at a time anyway. It's a small area. And for the most part, it's worked. I mean, I've had a few older ladies from the Wise Owls that have given me grief about the drive-up window. They're not used to it. Yeah, we're a small town, but we've got to change.
You got to keep moving.
We've got to change for what's going on in the world. So, that issue's been pushed. Couple different incidents. Now I'm Mayor Bob McCoy coward, and different things like that. Trying to push everybody's buttons. The whole goal is to either get arrested or file a lawsuit, which with this whole thing, a lawsuit did develop. So I was where an employee basically told the fellow that he wasn't coming in the building, that she had tried to help him with what he needed help with. The police chief wasn't in. It was a police matter with body cam footage, and then he started making other excuses to come in the building. And she just said, no, you're not coming in. So I think the following day or maybe a week later, I was handed a lawsuit for $20,000 or fire my employee. So I said I wasn't firing my employee. She was fearful of the situation. It was a very forceful situation, and we turned that into our insurance company and let them look at it, and let them look at the videotapes that are flowing around there, because this is a whole YouTube thing where they're getting paid to do this. It's a national thing. I haven't quite figured it out, but we have nothing to hide. A lot of things are available online through what they call Gateway. I don't know if you've ever explored Gateway.
I've heard of it before, but I know it's there.
You can look
There's
at
tons of
Gateway.
stuff.
You can tell exactly what I make a year. You can tell it's lots of information. For the most part, everything anybody would really need is there. Everything else can be emailed or whatever. There does not need to be somebody. The fellow was in the building probably 7 or 8 times in 1 week or something. It's just ridiculous. It was excuses to get in, and most of it was to intimidate the employee that basically wouldn't let him in the first place. So, and that, and he's going to argue, no, she's afraid of a guy with a camera, and but I mean, if you look this up, it's just, I really don't know what it is anymore. It's frustrating because
Sure.
we're trying to do the best for the city of Winchester, and make the taxpayer know that they're welcome in the city building to do city business, and we try to help everybody. But I wouldn't like going in the city building and having somebody film me just coming in to pay my sewage bill or whatever. It's frustrating.
No, yeah, that would.
And it's their, well, it's my right to film a city employee with the camera in your face, and provoking it is. But I'll get off of that. But it kind of makes my job
more difficult.
It makes it more difficult, and wonder why I do what I do, because I left a good paying job. I took a pay cut.
Right.
But I took a pay cut because, again, I was bored with what I was doing. I felt like I grew as far as I could go, and I'm 59 years old, so this may be my last job. after this term, or it may not be. I may go on another term. He's already told me he's going to run against me. I told him, I don't care. The more the merrier. We need more people to run.
Sure.
People with good intentions, that is. But whether I run another term or not, I'm undecided about that, and not more about him. It's about me and my age and my health. I
Sure.
mean, I've got to look at the fact that I will be 61 and a half when I'm done after the first term, and whether I want to even bother with it.
Yeah, because I mean, this is you said yourself. You took a pay cut, and it's not a low stress. I mean, sure, it's like I said, it's rural Randolph County, but there's a lot of things going on, and as we've discovered, definitely in the school building, there's a lot of hats that need to be worn, but not a lot of heads to wear them. There's a lot of things that, and if you're going off after grants, there's a lot of paperwork. There's a lot of to make progress, to do your best at what you've been elected to do, or your job. It can be a lot of work, and to really try to push the community forward and everything. It can be an uphill battle or a struggle.
It can be overwhelming. And I originally, and maybe I was just naive to it, and Sean Byram told me, you don't get paid near enough. He said, believe me, he said, you will put in more hours. And at first no, I'll go in at 7:30 and leave at 4 every day and pretty much done. And it's not that.
No.
I go in about 7:10 for the most part. Summertime, I try to get out of there sometimes 3:30, 4. But on the other hand, when I'm out of there, through the course of the day, like sometimes Monday, you have different service groups meet. Tuesdays, you have different service groups meet. We have Randolph United meet on, I think, Thursdays. We have a housing committee that meets. I mean, there's a lot of meetings that I do attend. There's meetings that I miss just because I can't attend. Area planning and Board of Zoning Appeals are Tuesdays and Wednesdays once a month. A lot of stuff that goes on there has to do with either Union City or Winchester. Mm-hmm. We've been talking a lot about signs, Union City and Winchester both, and I know Union City was not happy with the whole thing, with the whole sign thing, and I think they said they were going to walk away from it. So I don't know where that's at.
I can't say myself.
But I mean, we have these boards for a reason, and we do have zoning for a reason, and so when people are zoned for residential, they are expected to maintain their property in that zoning. Same for C2, C3, all the different zones. There is expectations, and they should abide by them. And if they don't, and there's complaints, then we'll follow up on it.
Sure.
I mean, and that goes back to violations. I mean, we've had a lot of issues with people just basically, buying a house at a tax sale or whatever, or renting a house, and all of a sudden the garage is full of cars, the alleys are full of cars, the backyard's full of cars, and they're working on cars. And they're like, well, I have that right. You're in a residential area. You're not zoned commercial. You're not zoned to work on cars, and then you got to prove it. And they're, well, how do you prove it? Well, then you talk to the attorneys. Well, you have to prove that they're making money off of it. I mean, it is so frustrating. And I had a little old lady that dealt with this for, gosh, I want to say a year and a half. And I mean, there was times that it got violent, and there was drug dealing going on. And I mean, it was sad. I felt bad for her. And I mean, my hands were tied. I said, well, it's in the legal system. We've talked to the prosecutor. We're doing everything we can. But I mean, it finally did resolve itself. But I mean, it's just ugly. It really is. That again, I mean, I don't know where you're familiar. There was an area outside of Parker that was full of lawnmowers.
I think
a little subdivision. I mean, you couldn't walk. There was no grass. And that took, I don't know how many years to resolve. I think they finally got an injunction to clean it up. But I mean, but the neighbors were like, yeah, it's on Facebook, selling lawnmowers, and it was just on and on and on. But yeah, the legal system, very frustrating. Sure. But you do got to understand that there's people's rights, and you gotta understand that it's a process, and you've got attorneys that make money for every delay.
True.
Yep. So yeah, it's been a learning experience on that side of it.
I'm sure.
But
I'm sure there's lots of things that people don't know, and especially like you said, there, people have to live with it happening right outside their window, right next door, and they're wondering every day what's happening. A year and a half can be a really long time.
Exactly, and I always use Ansonia, areas in Ohio. You drive over Allglaze County. You drive into them counties, and you look around. They're clean. They keep their properties clean. They do so much better job. But then the laws are different when it comes to clean up your property, and I don't know for sure how it works in Ohio, or you go to jail or whatever. But in Indiana, they're so much different. Mm-hmm. So a lot of people don't understand. Well, I can't believe you can't make them do that.
Well, it's not the same.
And then on the other hand, it's people, I can't believe you're harping on me and causing me grief.
There's two sides of everything, right?
Yeah, exactly. But and I get it. But again, what I was hired to do, and if that is not my focus, come Monday, I ask them, if that's not going to be my focus, you're not going to provide funding, then we'll continue building houses if they want to continue doing that. And I really don't know. I don't really feel I have a worth if they want to basically chop my hands off and not allow me to do what's expected of me by a lot of other people.
Sure. I mean, you're a public servant elected by the people, and I mean, so are they,
Yeah,
but you're...
Exactly. But they do provide the funding, and if they don't feel that we're going the right direction, then they need to say something. And I've asked for more participation out of them. I want them to get out. I want them to get out and walk and look at their areas. I want them to point out blight. I want them to point out issues. So, that's been my goal all along, say, you guys need to step it up and do that. So.
Well, there's a lot going on, and I know we had one. My agenda here is pretty short, and just I know I've learned a lot, but there's one other item that I wanted to kind of touch base on, and something that came into Randolph County not too long ago, but is the wall that heals, and I know you were involved in that. They came to the Winchester Community High School, and we're out there, but. And I think had some students go out there and film some things that hopefully will get cut into here as well. But tell us about the wall that heals.
Well, I can tell you my interview with your students, I flopped.
Well, hey, you get a second chance right now.
It was not pretty. I wasn't expecting it, and they just kind of shoved me. These guys want to interview you.
And you're like, what?
I didn't go. I wasn't in the service. My wife actually was in the service. She did guard. To get an education,
okay.
But if I got a father-in-law, a Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart, and it's tough for him still. He didn't visit the wall, and we asked him, we invited him, we take him, whatever. But that there's a lot of people that it's still something they really are not comfortable being around or whatever. He does talk to my daughter quite a bit. And my daughter's got more out of him than my wife's ever got out of him about Vietnam. Probably maybe more than his wife's got out of him. He wants to share with her about it. But 58,300, I think, somewhere around there, died in Vietnam. I mean, we have, I may be wrong about this. I know there's 10 Randolph County people, and there's some buried at Fountain Park. Something that really was difficult. I mean, I went around and for the most part, they kind of teased us and saying the guys that were doing this forever would say, well, you're going to do this tour. You have all these school kids show up and they say, oh, you can do this one. No. I mean, this guy was so sharp. He'd pick people out on the wall and tell about them and tell their story. But, we have had apps on our phones. And also there was a directory. So if somebody would come up, you just basically walk up and say, hey, did you have somebody that lost their life in Vietnam? Yeah, I did, and this is their name, and pump it in on that app and take them right to the location. You could take that app, take a picture of their name on the wall, and then bring up their picture
Wow.
that they had on file, sometimes multiple pictures, tell what date they died, where they died at, and I think what their rank was. And that was something, and there was a lot of people that told stories that, you were there sometimes. I think Bridget Ashley actually had went into a tent with a guy that, opened up to her. She was in there for probably a half hour talking to him about it, and maybe he'd never opened up about it. But that was very, it opened my eyes. It really did. But for them to open up and tell me stories and say, you know, this, I was with them, or that was part of my group, and things like that. That was very moving. And we did have a church service out there. Wasn't very well attended. I really hope more people would come out. I was out there at 7 o'clock in the morning with donuts and coffee. Had somebody speak, but Sunday there were more people out there to help to watch, you know, look at the wall, and then we had, you know, a lot of volunteers to tear down. I mean, I give a lot of people credit for helping with tear down, and the volunteers out there never went hungry. There was always food out there. There was always water. And then I had people come up and looking for a loved one that they didn't even serve in Vietnam. They were in a different war, and then after talking to them for a few minutes, they realized that, oh no, this is just Vietnam. And then another part of the whole thing was the interactive area with the part of the semi basically turns into a whole interactive area with video screens, and basically provided a timeline about how it all began, and kind of worked through there. And the tour guides that came with the wall, I mean, they explained it where, I think it would take me 5 years to remember everything that but I mean, they explained it very well to a lot of children, and I think that the fact that we got a lot of children there was probably a big bonus. Adults, I don't know that we did a lot of groups of adults, but the adults just kind of slowly came in. But it was very, very moving.
Mm-hmm.
It was emotional for me at times. But there was even an area for those who have passed later from deaths from cancers and things like that. They can actually, there's a memorial or a thing I can't remember the name of it. They can sign up for that, and then every year they read the names.
Oh, wow.
And besides the ones that are on the wall, they read the names of those who have passed from cancers and different things. K.I.S.S comes to mind, which recently passed in Winchester. I did not know. I knew Coy for many years. They run the skating rink. I didn't realize that he had passed from something Vietnam related. I don't know, it was Agent Orange, a cancer of some sort probably. But there were others that had passed that we haven't really recognized them, that they did serve, and they have passed because of what happened over there, or how things went, and the whole cancers and the Agent Orange and the depression and the alcoholism, and and the journey home in Winchester is helping with quite a bit of that type of stuff now, and they help get these people back on their feet if at all possible, and sometimes in homes by themselves and stuff like that. So that's just great that that's happening. Besides the journey home, kind of off the wall a little bit topic, we're still helping pregnant women that are addicted.
Sure, I've heard about that.
The Winchester House. I haven't really been in a whole lot of communication with them lately, but I do know they're still serving women, and they're still doing a good thing. And a lot of times, my understanding is if they bring them from the outside to a smaller community, and they possibly relocate here, they kind of stay clean. When you're here and you stay here and you become addicted here, you're probably going to stay addicted. The chances are a lot less.
Sometimes a change of scenery, geography, or getting yourself out of that environment can make a big difference. I can imagine.
And that, I think that goes the same sometimes with these veterans that come from all over the place and are served at the journey home. That maybe they're from Dayton or whatever. Once they get out of that environment, maybe that's their buddies, that they call them, that get them right back into it. And that's the same thing with the whole meth thing. People need to get out of that environment, and it's tough. Like I said, I feel for them. I really do.
Well, we've
Did we cover a lot?
I think we've covered a lot. We talked a lot about different things. I mean, I know it opened my eyes about a lot of things because Union City guy. I'm here, and I'm in the school building doing my thing. But it's good to hear what's going on over in Winchester and all the stuff that you've got going on, and a lot of progress. You amazing park, and doing what you can to just move forward, move things the direction to kind of improve everything. And so that's and sometimes a thankless job, it sounds like, but I know
it can be, and there's times that I go home and I'm ready to just say I'm done. But there's other times that I get somebody to call me, and I get letters once in a while from people from other towns that say, hey, you're doing a good job, hang in there. I know it's not the best job sometimes, but hang in there and you're appreciated. And I've had people call me just recently, say we'll pray for you and things like that. So that's always good. I mean, to get a compliment, which is a rarity sometimes, because it's a negative world. I'm sorry, but I really feel for our young people, because they're getting beat up from all directions. Social media, they're not being encouraged. Some are in single parent families, some are being raised by grandparents. It just goes on and on and on. They're behind the 8 ball from the start sometimes, and that's not a good thing. And I really feel what Winchester, Union City, Monroe Center, I feel the schools have finally stepped up to educate in different fields, not necessarily say you need to go to college.
Right.
So, the welding program, K.I.S.S TV, horticulture, you name it. I think we realized that where we were going wrong. When I was in school, and this goes back, we had woods, we had welding, we had industrial arts, we had drafting by hand, we had Photoshop. We had photography where we develop our own film. We had a lot of things, and then that kind of went, I don't know where it went.
I think you're right. I think the state kind of decided at one point, or some of the politicians decided, well, that's not where we want our kids to go into, and there's nothing wrong with those jobs. And so I think they're good jobs, and we're paying for that loss of focus or deciding that those are for some reason lesser, and we're seeing there aren't electricians, there aren't plumbers, there aren't welders, and those are good, solid careers, jobs, and so I think the state's finally realized what I think a lot of us around here in the schools have been saying. Hey, we need to refocus. We need to look at career and technical education. And so I think it's great. I know Winchester's got a great welding program. I know we send some of our kids over and see some of the neat things they're doing, and we've sent some kids to Hobart's welding school. Graduation was not long ago, and I heard welding come up quite a bit as kids were walking across the stage. And so I think we're finally getting away from every kid's got to go to college. Exactly. I think there's still, you need to go find some more skills. You need to further,
of course.
But I think we're making progress, and I think it's great. I know there's a lot of things going on, and you're a real busy guy. But as far as places to find more information about Winchester, I know you've got it was on the website earlier.
Yep.
Winchester-in.gov.
Right.
It's a great looking website.
Thank you. That actually is done by Matt Howe.
Okay.
Which I think he recently took over Williams Printing in Farmland. I can't think of what the name of his company is. But anyway, we put that in place, I don't know, maybe a year and a half ago. We got some nice footage of the Winchester
Absolutely.
Speedway.
It was a nice.
Actually, I think there's a little bit of me in there.
I was there
the drivers.
I saw you go by there real briefly.
Right. So, and we probably need to get that off of there. They're probably sick of looking at me, but something different. But, Winchester Speedway, that's the fastest half mile in the world.
Mm-hmm.
And Charlie's getting up there in age, and he's tried his best to keep that place going. And I give Charlie a lot of credit, because it's not a cheap place to run, and weather is always a giant factor out there. And this year, even the first race, there was no race. It was the Old Timers Festival, but there really wasn't any races. They got out there and got on the track. I actually took my personal car out there. I took Charlie around. But the thing was, they said they couldn't get tires and fuel was concerned. So we had a lot of people say, hey, we're not coming. We can't get tires, and the whole supply issue. So we're hoping that we'll get some races in this year, and they'll actually be full races, and we'll pack the place. Last year we had a monsoon come through.
I think I drove by right around. I saw some, and there were trucks almost buried trying to get their RVs and everything in there for a race. It was something to see driving by.
But it was, it was kind of my first year really dealing with helping the Speedway out the best we could, because I get a call on Friday night. I'm out walking with my wife, and it's Bob Dillner, which Charlie had hired as a promoter last year. I think it was Friday night, might have been Thursday. We're in a mess. He said, we need buses to bus people out here because it is so muddy. But we're moving on with the race because it was going to be clear skies. But I mean, we got so much rain, it dumped. And I said, well, I call around. I know a few people with some minibuses, and I'm thinking small at that time. This isn't, and I really wasn't thinking straight when I was thinking small. So I call Rawl and Abraham up. Let me see what I can do. And I said, well, let me give you their contact, and you guys work together and let me know. And I said, we need to figure something out, let me know. So he's calling around, and I mean, he pretty much gets a hold of the bus barn and talks to people out there. And I mean, we have buses running people to the Speedway from multiple locations all over Winchester. They're
Holy
picked
cow.
up and all paid the school through tourism. They paid the check, so it wasn't like tax dollars were being used for the school buses. Bus drivers got paid by tourism, and the bus drivers, they had hats there on their motor thing, when riding a school bus, you walk up there, and they got tips. And
That's
a lot
awesome.
of people from out of town, they're very generous and very appreciative of getting a ride. And I actually rode out there myself 3 different times.
That's awesome.
And I took a few people out myself that missed the bus. But our Speedway is a big thing to
Sure.
our community, and I'll make sure we get our schedule on our website for that, our Facebook page.
And that's Facebook is City of Winchester, Indiana.
Yeah.
Correct? Okay.
Yep. So as far as the Facebook page, we try to make it more of an information-only page. A lot of times you get comments on there that have nothing to do with what's
Certainly.
going on. Sometimes it's complaints. With my recent auditor fellow, his following is posting videos. I think they even posted one on where we congratulated Randy Yarian on 25 years as a preacher at Union Street Church.
Sure.
And then we have this video on there about the altercation. So, like I said, we try to just post information. We don't answer questions on Facebook. We direct people to our webpage. We direct them to our phone numbers, things like that. So, we're looking at social media a little different right now, and looking at some policies that some other states have to see if the legality of it, because you still go back into free speech.
Sure.
But tagging our page with outside things, that's a little on the gray area. So I'm looking at that as well. And then we're going to have to go back and just look at how our building overall is, the flow is being handled. Like I said, we technically, for the most part, we can only handle one person at a time at the clerk's window. It's a small area, so we try to, and like I said, for the most part, it's worked smooth for 1.5 years, 2 years. But and if we have to do something different, we'll do something different, and we'll adjust. But we have nothing to hide. Transparent.
If you have a question, just ask.
I had people even digging in, asking about the mayor's car that was wrecked, whether the city had bought my car that I'm driving all the time, and no, because it's a Tesla.
Oh, okay.
So,
okay.
then
I can see
then the
they're
rumors
asking all these
flying, well, the
questions.
city bought the mayor a Tesla. No, the city didn't buy the mayor the Tesla. The Tesla was purchased by the mayor, and the mayor basically did well with Tesla stock and bought a Tesla.
Well, hey.
That was the end of it. I mean, again, I'm 59. I'm not going to live forever. I wanted it.
Yep.
I mean, I did. I think I deserve it, and I had the money to buy it. And
There
I
you
had a
go.
Mustang at one time, and I really liked it, but I grew out of the Mustang, and I've evolved to a Tesla. And it's used. It's not brand new, so.
Well, and if that's your vehicle, it can be brand new, it can be used, it can be whatever way you want it.
Exactly. But I can tell you, Charlie Shaw really enjoyed going around the track in that.
Good. That's good. That's good stuff. Well, Bob's been an education. I appreciate having you on, having you come over here. I mean, not the longest drive I'm sure you've made to have a conversation, but I do appreciate you coming over here and talking to us. And hopefully we'll get you back when you've got some
Okay.
new stuff going on.
Okay.
Anytime you want to come over, you just let us know.
Okay.
But yeah, that was Bob McCoy. If you with City of Winchester, any more information about the City of Winchester, that's winchester-indiana.gov or -in.gov. City of Winchester, Indiana Facebook page, and Winchester 47394 on Twitter. Again, Bob, thanks so much. And,
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, always a pleasure. We'll catch up some other time.
Okay, thank you.